Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this past week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you're interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. The first dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made a cheesy beef and shells, like a one-pot dish. So I just have a little over a pound of ground beef. It's like 1.25 pounds. And I'm just going to cook this up until it is all the way cooked through. So once the ground beef was cooked all the way through, I just went ahead and disposed of as much grease as I could, but you don't have to get every drop. So next I'm just going to season my ground beef. I'm going to use some onion powder, Italian seasoning, pepper, and some Cajun seasoning. I also add in a little bit of red pepper flakes for a little bit of spice, so I'm just going to mix that all together until beef is nice and seasoned. So lastly, for the beef, of course, I'm going to add in some minced garlic. I just did a nice spoonful and I'm just going to stir that into the beef as well. So next I'm going to add in my tomato sauce. I'm adding in 2 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce, so 16 ounces. I'm just going to stir that into the beef and let it cook down. So of course I'm going to season it a bit more with some Italian seasoning and onion powder and a little bit of Cajun seasoning. So I'm going to let this really cook down together. Next, I'm going to add in half a box of medium shells, so I believe this is about 8 ounces. I just decided to make this a one-pot dish and cook the shells in the same pan. To make it easier, you can totally just boil the shells themselves and then stir it in after everything's done. So I just added in enough water to cover the shells, and I'm also going to add in a little bit of bouillon powder. I'm just going to let this cook until the shells are nice and tender. I'm so used to my see-through lids that I did not like having a lid that I couldn't see through, so I kind of just let it boil without a lid and it worked totally fine. I went ahead and made sure I kept stirring just to make sure nothing was sticking to the bottom and each shell was getting nice and cooked. So I'm just adding in some heavy whipping cream to make this sauce a little bit lighter and creamier. The key is to really let all of this cook and simmer and thicken. This is not a quick dish. So next, of course, I'm going to add in my cheese. I'm just using 2 handfuls of Monterey Jack cheese. Totally use cheddar if you have it. This is just what I had. This is also where you can taste test for salt. You don't want to add too much salt in the beginning because cheese does have salt. So I just let this finish thickening up and I cooked some broccoli and garlic bread on the side. This is how everything looked when it was done, and definitely so good for leftovers. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you is still my favorite thing that I make. It is my cream cheese chicken taquitos. So I just cooked 2 chicken breasts in my Instant Pot and I lightly seasoned it with just some Mexican seasonings, and now I'm going to shred it all up. So next I'm going to add in a couple spoonfuls of cream cheese. I just love the texture that this gives, and it also gives it such a good flavor. So I'm just going to finish up the taquito mixture with some Monterey Jack cheese and some seasonings like taco seasoning, cumin, onion powder. So next, I'm just going to make a little quick homemade guacamole. You've probably seen me do this a million times. It really is nothing fancy, just some avocado, lime juice, garlic salt, onion powder, and pepper. I love guacamole so much, I just could eat all of this with just chips. So next I'm going to begin assembling my taquitos. So I just dampen my corn tortillas and I put them in the microwave to soften. This is a crucial step. Your taquitos will not roll unless you soften them. They will just break. This is also a good dinner leftovers because you can just save the mixture and make more taquitos the next night. So the last step is to fry up your taquitos. I just had some oil heating up on medium and I'm just going to place them seam side down, that way they fry close, and then I'm just going to cook them until they're nice and brown. So once they're your desired texture, you can go ahead and remove them. You want to make sure you pick them up and drain all the oil out of it. That way you don't bite into hot oil. And then I just place them on a wire rack to finish cooling. And I just repeat the process for all of my taquitos. These are also really good served with like rice and beans. This is how they look when they're done. I just top them with some salsa, queso fresco, lettuce, and guacamole, and this is 10 out of 10. The last dinner I'm going to show you is some homemade orange chicken, homemade sauce, and chicken. So first I'm going to start out with my orange sauce. I'm using actual orange juice, sriracha, soy sauce, and sugar. You have to add sugar, otherwise you won't have that sweet taste. That's why Panda Express is so good. So next I'm just going to cut up my chicken breasts into nice big bite-sized pieces. That way I can go ahead and fry them. One way you can lighten up this recipe is by not coating the chicken, not frying it, just pan cooking it and just adding in the sauce. So next I'm going to marinate the chicken in a little bit of soy sauce. This just adds a lot of nice salty flavor. So next I'm going to coat the chicken, so I'm just going to add an egg, mix that all together, and then add in my cornstarch. This is definitely a lazy way to do this, but it worked. You definitely want enough to coat the chicken. So next I'm going to fry the chicken in some oil. I just have my oil set on about medium heat, that way nothing burns. Just going to cook this until the coating is nice and browned. I also definitely did this in 2 batches. You don't want to add all of the chicken and crowd the pan. So once the chicken was done, I just removed them with a slotted spoon and placed them on the wire rack to finish draining. So next we're going to cook up the sauce we made, really just kind of warm it through, get it nice and thick. You can also taste test it here. I'm going to add a little bit more soy sauce. This is how the sauce should look, and now I'm going to add back all of my chicken. So the last step is just to toss this all together. I guess I should mention I also made some white rice on the side. This is how everything looked when it was done. It definitely tasted like real orange chicken. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.